Empires like Britain, France, Spain and the Netherlands extracted wealth directly from their colonies. Accounting, census and trade records were developed to keep track of the extraction. This created the first global balance sheets. Profits on one side, dispossession on the other. Before industrialization brought factories, mass production, global finance, most imperial wealth came from one of three places: looting, plunder, sacking the kingdom of Benin, tribute. Colonized people were required to pay taxes. This is coercion. Looting, plunder, coercion. This is how these empires made their wealth. And rent. Landlords. British absentee landlords. Wealth without production. The lowest of the low. But once you get factories and wage labour and international trade, you need to stabilise the systems. So the pirates, the racist pirates, needed a stable extraction system. And so they build banks, courts, railways, and the pageantry of democracy. Not for your benefit, not for local development, but so that a ruling class of wealthy merchant pirates could institutionalise and normalise their own satanic behaviour. All of these structures were designed with the purpose of moving the products, the goods, the profits back to the metropole. In our case, the City of London. Institutions like the Bank of England become models for the central bank. Every country must have a central bank. This is colonial bureaucracy. Central banks evolved out of colonial bureaucracy and they have not gotten better. They're administration systems for the calculation of global extraction. They count, measure, analyse and predict things like how many human bodies are available that can be either put to work or to war in service to them. After World War II, direct empire became much harder to justify, and so they got sneaky with it. Bretton Woods creates the IMF and the World Bank. Former colonies that got independence inherit debt. They're kept underdeveloped and subservient and dependent on Western trade markets. This is the birth of neocolonialism. Not occupation and extraction through coercion and dominance, but now it's through manipulation and economic dependence. There are three main tools that financial elites use to keep their colonies in their place: Basel Accords, credit ratings, and trade law. Each one sounds boring, bureaucratic, neutral, Swiss, but all three are quietly maintaining the same social order and global hierarchy that empire built. The Basel Accords are global banking rules set by the International Bank of Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. They decide how much money banks have to keep in reserve to be able to lend. For many people working in economics or policy, today's financial system seems logical, normal. Rules are rules. Stability matters. Risks must be measured. But beneath the surface and beyond most people's day-to-day critical thought, the way global finance is structured continues many of the same dark dynamics that defined colonialism: extraction, dependency, and external control through regulations, ratings, and trade agreements. So the Basel Accords set out these global banking standards. Risk models assume that Western economies are the benchmark for what's normal and what's strong. Let's say a country wants to build a new green energy grid, but if their banks are judged too risky under this rule, they won't be able to get affordable financing. So you're basing risk on this is strong, while disallowing anyone else to get strong. Western economies tend to have large, deep, stable financial institutions. They have long credit histories. They're deep in financial markets. It's fair that risk models would assume that this is safe. But stop and ask yourself, where did they get that stability? It didn't fall from the sky. The records are long from continuous bookkeeping over centuries of colonization, brought to you by the dudes who enforce aggressive military hierarchies and are obsessed with control and order. We are talking doomsday book energy here, people. The same system that tracked how many sheep were in the field and how many widows' sons they had to go to war. The origin of your credit history is domination and surveillance. So when risk models treat that as the standard and they call the global south risky, they are rewarding their own colonial logic. The idea that control equals safety, you think? Having this accord in place disallows the rest of the world outside of the Western economic bubble to fund new industries or create local solutions, establish economic self-determination, and have homegrown development that fits the local context instead of white guys giving them laptops. Don't need your spreadsheet. Nobody ever wanted your spreadsheet. The next part is the credit ratings. So Moody's and S&P and Fitch, they give these scores to countries. These ratings shape a country's future. A low rating can trigger capital flight, discourage investment. If a country tries an alternative to capitalism, it is downgraded. If they try and build a fairer democratic market, they are penalized. We don't have the freedom to experiment with alternative economic models. We are not allowed to evolve as human beings because our national priorities are being set by the people stealing from us. And the chance for people to develop their own path is too risky. For who? You? You, the extractor? Trade rules are supposed to create fair markets. But our trade rules, colonial hegemony, they actively prevent these poorer but resource-rich non-Western economies from protecting themselves from the theft, piracy, and exploitation. We don't have the ability to shape or reshape trade. It's not even about profit. We are struggling to switch to any kind of green anything, even though it's an existential threat to humanity now. Still too risky. Still too risky. Still too risky to stop growing like a tumor, motherfucker! The longer these systems go unchallenged, the scarier the outcome, quite frankly. This isn't about just throwing out the spreadsheet, but we need to reflect. We need finance that values care, not capital, growth. Growth for what? We need economies that reflect the cultures and priorities of the people that they serve. Who does this economy serve? It's designed to look boring so no one resists. It's a death by spreadsheet. Admin violence. But the harm is very, very real. And the power is still colonial.